Ricky Ricardo. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Well, listen, we're all going to stand before God, and we got some splaining to do. But we're glad that you're here today, and we're glad that you're joining us online as well. We finish up today the 6th and final installment of Back to Basics. And today we're going to read about the last one. We'll just go ahead and read the same passage we've been reading here in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. And you'll see which one we're on today. Therefore, leaving the discussion of the elementary principles of Christ, let us go on to perfection or maturity, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and of faith toward God, of the doctrine of baptisms, of laying on of hands, of the resurrection of the dead, and of eternal judgment. So the final installment of the Back to the Basics series today is eternal judgment. Eternal judgment. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but the Lord showed me as I was winding up this series how these basics, all 6 of them, are our Christian life. You see, we started out with the basics, the ABC of salvation, and that's when you get born again. You become a Christian. And then what's the very next thing was we learned about obedience. That's what's required to serve the Lord is obedience, water baptism. Then it was spirit baptism, which is what? Empowering us to serve Him and to do for Him and to minister. And then the next one was the laying on of hands, which was all about what? Ministry. Laying on of hands, sending people outside your church. Laying on of hands for people inside the church. Laying on of hands to minister to one another. That's all that. And how long does that last for? Till the rest of our lives. And what happens after the rest of our lives? The resurrection. That was the next one after that. And you think, well, maybe that's the end. But no, the resurrection is not the end. The resurrection is close to the end. There's one more after the resurrection, and that is eternal judgment. Now, a lot of us, when we hear the word eternal judgment, that can kind of be a little bit scary sounding. Oh, we're going to face eternal judgment. But you know, eternal judgment is not necessarily a bad thing. Let's look at this, what this means, eternal judgment in the Greek. It's the 2 words, aeonas is eternal, and judgment is krima. That's what it is written in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 2 in the Greek. But what does that really mean in English? Well, let's look at that. Eternal means perpetual. That makes sense, doesn't it? It goes on and on and on and on. And after that, on and on and on and on. And after that, on and on and on. It never ends. Sometimes the Bible uses words like everlasting and eternal. It means perpetual. So this judgment is perpetual. It will last forever. And what does judgment mean? It just means krima is a ruling for or against. It just means a decision or a ruling or a judgment, just as a judge may say guilty or not guilty. That's a decision, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily be a bad thing. If the judge says you're not guilty, that's a good thing, right? If the judge rules a settlement in your favor to award you a large sum of money, and they say, I'm ruling for you, that's good, right? So eternal judgment, don't think of it as just a negative thing. Now, eternal punishment or eternal condemnation, that's a bad thing. But eternal judgment just means God's going to make a decision, and that decision is final. It's final. It's perpetual. That decision will never, ever be changed. Now, we know this. What happens, we talked about what happens after the resurrection. Well, Hebrews 9:27 tells us this. It is appointed unto mankind to die. Then after this, judgment. Okay? So we will live our lives on this earth, and hopefully we're living them according to these basic principles, and we're serving and ministering and in obedience. We've come to Christ, and we're empowered to do all these things for Jesus. Then when our life is over, The Bible says at some point when it ends, there will be a judgment to follow. There'll be a judgment to follow. We all have an appointment. It is appointed. A lot of us have little day runners, or you have an appointment calendar on your phone. Next Tuesday I'm going to do this, and next month I've got some appointments on my phone that are years in advance, because I know if I don't put them in there, I'm going to forget them. This appointment I don't have to even put on my calendar, because I'm going to be reminded of it. I'm going to get that reminder that it's time. It's time. We are all going to stand before the Creator of the universe. We are all going to stand. It's appointed unto men once to die, and after this there is judgment for kings and for peasants, for the rich, for poor, for men, for women, for the young, for the old. We will all face judgment, eternal judgment. A decision will be rendered, and that decision will be final. The richest person in the world is going to stand before God and be judged. And the starving young person in some forgotten part of the world is going to stand before God. We're all going to stand and face judgment. Romans 14:12 says this: we will all, each of us, shall give an account of ourselves to God. Are you ready for that day? Are you ready to stand before God and give an account of yourself? Say, God, this is how I lived my life. This is me. You gave me the gift of breath, and this is what I did with it. You gave me this time on earth, these talents, these abilities, and these treasures, and this is what I did with it. It's kind of like the parable of the talents, where Jesus gave some coins to each one, or the story that the whole householder, but it's referencing God, gave the talents and said, go do something. I'm going to go away, do something with it. And some took it and doubled it, and some just buried it in the ground in a hole. We will all give an account for ourselves. In those wonderful words of our Latino herald from many years ago, Ricky Ricardo, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. I love Lucy. Ricky Ricardo. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Well, listen, we're all going to stand before God, and we got some splaining to do. We've got to give an account for ourselves. We've got to give an account for what we've done. Now, that might sound even a little bit ominous to you. Like maybe you don't like job interviews, or maybe you don't like final exams, and you don't like to have to stand in front of somebody and explain yourself, why you did this or why you did that. And you say, I can't even remember all the things I did. How am I going to give an account to God? I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast. Well, don't worry. God's keeping records. He's keeping track of it all for you. And if you forget it, he's going to remind you of it. Let's look here in Revelation chapter 20, verse 11 through 15. This is one of the judgments that's going to take place. And I use it because it explains to us how these judgments will happen in our lives. It says, then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, whose face the earth and heaven fled away. There was no place found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works. Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, and anyone not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Now, this is just one of the judgments that people will face. And I picked this out to read to you because it explains to us how we will be judged. It's clear. God's got some books. Now, they're not books like we've got. He's got 2 books, but they look like scrolls. That's how books were back in those days. They look like scrolls. And there are 2 books that was described in this passage. Did you hear them? It said there were books that was going to be opened, and there's 2 types of books. Now, there may be more than one book, multiple books, but there's 2 types. There is the book of life, other places called the Lamb's book of life. And there's a book of works. We saw that. It says they will be judged by their works with things that are written in the book. So there's a book of life and there's a book of works. The book of works contains a list of everything we've done. The book of life is the book that has names in it of those who are in the book of life that have life eternal. And so you want to make sure your name's in that book. So there are 2 judgments that we see in this passage that we're all going to face. Now, we're not all going to stand before the great white throne judgment, but we will all be judged in the same manner. The first judgment is going to be the judgment whether your name is in the book of life or not. That's going to be simple. You're going to stand before God. They're going to open the book of life, and they're going to look for your name. And it's either in there or it ain't. Simple, isn't it? Amen. Pretty simple. And then there's another book that's opened called the Book of Works, and it contains everything about us. What a list. What a list. My. This is how it takes place. So let's say that it comes time for someone to be judged, and they stand before God, and the book of life is opened. What happens? If their name is in the book of life, and if you don't know how to get your name in the book of life, go back to the very first message of this series, the ABCs of salvation. Admit you're a sinner and repent of those sins. Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ in your heart that God has raised him from the dead. And confess Jesus as your Lord. ABCs of salvation. Get your name put in the book of life. The Lamb's book of life. Jesus is the Lamb that takes away the sin of the world. John 1:29. So if the book's opened and your name is in the book of life, what happens next? Well, then you go to the next judgment. Judgment of the book of works. But what happens if they open the book of life and they look for a person's name and their name's not in there? What happens next? Then they go to the second judgment, the book of works. See how that works? It's pretty easy, isn't it? 2 judgments, book of life, and then the book of works. So let's just go ahead and see what would happen, or what's going to happen, because there are going to be many people, not a few, but many people who hope that their name is in that book. Even now, they hope to make it to heaven. They hope that God's going to be on their side. They don't know. They're just hoping and wishing. They've really not taken any steps to make it happen, to make it so, but they're just hoping. But let's just say, for example, for many people, as we know, that their name is not going to be in there. Their name is not in there now. And when they stand before God, it won't be in there. So God opens the book of life, and their name is not found in the book. Well, what happens? Well, it said there right there in verse 15, anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So the first judgment is your name in the book? If it's not in the book, your destination that awaits you is to be cast into the lake of fire. Now, you remember when we talked about the doctrine of baptisms? We said there was water baptism. And then John the Baptist said about Jesus, I baptize you with water. He that comes after me is mightier than I. He will baptize you with the Holy Ghost. We talked about that, right? And with fire. And that fire, the baptism of fire, is a baptism of judgment, as it went on to say there. Look, go back and listen to that message again. Now, the word baptism, you remember, means what? To fully immerse into that water is to be fully covered in the Holy Spirit. Baptism by fire. Can you imagine being baptized into fire? What would that be? What words could you use to describe that? How about being cast into a lake of fire? Being baptized into fire. Anyone's name is not in the book of life is cast into the lake of fire. We talked about it last time. Everybody will stand before God. All who are in their graves will resurrect. Remember that from last time? Some the resurrection to life, some the resurrection to condemnation. Again, talking about this lake of fire, which the eternal decision, now that's going to be final, okay? If they look for the person's name and it's not in there, there's no court of appeals. This is an eternal decision, a perpetual judgment, a perpetual decision that will last forever. If their name is not found in there, there is no appeal, there is no do-over, there is no second chance, there is no try again. It's finished. And then that eternal decision will turn into eternal condemnation or eternal punishment, weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth. The worm dieth not, the flame is not quenched. Forever, perpetual. But you know, that's going to be bad. But you know what may even add to it, make it worse, is found in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 9. And it says this, these shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his power. Probably one of the worst things about hell, you're going to have all this torment, of course. But think about the mental anguish and the torment, because we know everyone's going to be resurrected and their spirit and their soul, they're still going to be who they were, and they're going to have memories. Think about this memory for those who will spend all of eternity over and over, perpetual, no way out, no ending. That they will have the memory of standing before God Almighty. The ones who on earth mocked God and mocked Christians. The ones who cursed God, tempted God and dared God. The ones who said, I don't even believe in God. He's not even real. He doesn't exist. They all will stand face to face in front of the throne as their judgment is taking place and see with their own eyes and experience in their own life, this is God. He is real. He is mighty. He is the creator. He is glorious. Look at this place. Look at the multitudes of angels. Look at the saints who have gone before wearing their white robes. This was all real. I was wrong to mock the preacher. I was wrong to disregard church. I was wrong. Look how great this is. Look how wonderful. I just feel his presence, his love, and his grace. I can just feel it all. It's so wonderful, so full of life. And then be told, now get out and never come back. Go to a place of eternal darkness, the complete opposite of what you just experienced. Eternal decision in this case means eternal punishment. But before they go to eternal punishment, before they're cast into the lake of fire, I've already told you, they have to be judged according to their works. There's the book of life, the first judgment. Then there's the book of works, the second judgment. So the book of life says you're not in here. Your destination is the lake of fire. Why in the world then would you be judged by works? Well, we just read the scripture. It says in verse 12, and they were judged according to their works by the things that were written in the books. So their name's not found in the book of life. Then they're judged according to their works. Why would you be judged according to your works if your destination is already sealed? Well, the reason is hidden within scriptures. And the truth of the matter is, there are different and varying degrees of hell. You mean you say it's not just the same for everybody? No, it's not. Hell's going to be worse for some than it is others. Now listen, there is no place where it's going to be good. There is no place where it's going to be bearable or tolerable. But there will be places that are worse than others. Jesus said to the people that he was ministering to, he said, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than it will be for Tyre and Sidon. Because if I had done these marvelous works in Sodom and Gomorrah that I've done among you, they would have repented. Can you imagine that? The people Jesus was ministering to were worse off than Sodom and Gomorrah. And Jesus said, in the day of judgment, it's going to be better for them than it is for you. He said Tyre and Sidon. He also said, the servant who knows what his master wants and doesn't do it is going to be beaten with many stripes. But the servant who didn't know what his master wanted to do and still didn't do it will be beat with few stripes. What's he talking about? He's talking about punishment. There's a punishment in hell. Now, it's going to be punishment for everyone. And you say, well, what's the works that they did? What's the worst thing they did? Well, the worst thing they could have done is in John chapter 3, 16, 17, and 18, which says, God sent his son to the world and you could have life. God didn't send his son into the world to condemn the world, that through him all men might be saved. And then it goes on to say, and those who do not believe are condemned already. It's not really, oh, he did committed this sin, committed that sin. The number one thing is they did not believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. Automatically disqualified from eternal life. So there is judgment to come, and being judged by your works, if your name is not in the book of life, those works will determine what degree. There's going to be people who, for lack of better description, it's going to be hotter for them. It's going to be worse for them. More torment. More, the person that mocked the preacher, mocked the invitation to church. They're going to be tormented by the fact that they rejected that. All the times they could have come to church. All the times they could have been here. They're going to never forget that. Never. Ever. That will be a degree of torment that someone else may not have. So, that's what happens if they open up the book of life and a person's name's not in that book. Then they're judged according to their works, and then they are cast into the lake of fire and receive an eternal punishment based on their works. So, what about the believer, though? The book of life is opened, and your name is found. Oh boy, what a day that's going to be if your name's in that book. Woo! Amen. They open up the book of life, and they start looking for it, your name. Hey, come on now, hurry up, get there. Don't make me wait. My name's in there. I know it's in there. They find your name, it's in the book of life. Then what happens? Well, they got more books. God still got more books. That's what it says there. There was books were open. There was the book of life, and there was other books. And there's the book of works. So even if your name is in the book of life, you've given your life to Jesus, you are obedient, like baptism, you are empowered, and you served like laying on hands, all the way to the end of your life. You've been resurrected. You're standing before God. The book of works still have to be opened. The book of works are still open. Okay? So, this just makes it pretty easy then. We're talking about eternal judgment, eternal decisions. Everybody's going to stand before God. We learned last time, everybody's going to be resurrected, right? And so everybody's going to get resurrected. Everybody's going to stand before God. Everybody's going to be judged according to whether their name's in the book or not, the book of life. They're going to be judged whether their name's in the book of life or not. And then everybody's going to be judged according to their works. Everybody. That's how it works. It's pretty simple, isn't it? So, if your name is in the book of life, then this second judgment, the book of works, is opened, and you are going to be judged by your works. What's in that book? And that's the thing we're going to talk about for a little bit today. As we all stand before God, and we've got some explaining to do, and you can't remember all the things you did, you can't remember all the things you said, it's okay. God's got a scroll, and they're going to call the one for you, the one for me, and it's going to be opened. We're going to stand before God, and that book's going to be open. So what are we going to be judged on? There are basically 3 books or 3 categories that we're going to be judged on. And the first book we're going to be judged on is deeds. You know what a deed is? Something you done did. Look at your neighbor and say, you will be judged. Say, you will be judged by the stuff you done did. Okay. We're going to be judged by the stuff we done did. That's what deeds are. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10. For we, now notice that that's really important here. Paul's writing to a church at Corinth. He says we. He's talking about Christians, believers. We, people whose names are in the book of life, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body, according to what he has done, whether good or bad. You're going to be judged for what you've done did. Right? Paul said, we, the believers, we're going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ, the bema seat, the bema judgment of Christ. We believers, our names have already been found in the book of life. We already made it to heaven, right? We know where we're going to spend eternity. We're going to spend eternity in heaven and then on the new earth that God's going to make that's going to be like heaven on earth. We know that. But there's also a judgment of works to take place. And the first judgment is deeds, stuff we done did. What have you done? Good or bad? What have you done for Jesus as a Christian? What have you done against Jesus as a Christian? Jesus said, if you're not for me, you're against me. So when we don't do what we should have done, that's bad. Right? When we do what we should do, that's good. It says good or bad. If we don't do what we should have done, that's bad. If we do what we shouldn't have done, that's bad. We're going to be judged for what we've done. So if we are like that parable and God gives each one of us talents, whether it be our abilities or whether it be money or whatever he's given us, and he says, go do something with that for my kingdom, we're going to stand before God and he's going to judge us for what we done did with that. Did we do a good job with that? He calls me to be a preacher. He's going to pull me up in front of him and say, I called you to be a preacher. How'd you do? Oh boy. All I'm going to say is I done did my best, but sometimes I messed up. Sometimes I done did wrong. Sometimes I was in the flesh. Sometimes I was not in the spirit. Sometimes I was like Moses and I was angry with the people. Sometimes I struck the rock instead of speaking to the rock. Good or bad? I hope there's more good than there is bad. But we're going to be judged according to what we've done, we the believers, what we've done in the body. We talked about water baptism being a step of obedience. The second step of confession, because we first confess with our mouth. Now water baptism becomes to be a second confession in front of people that we believe in Jesus Christ. But it's our first act of obedience. What about all the other obedience? Forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. What do you mean, God? You want me to come together with believers all the time? He said, did I stutter? Don't forsake it. Get together. Oh, well, how often? As often as you can, and even the more so as you see the day of the Lord approaching. As much as you can. Am I going to be judged according to whether I went to church or not? Is that a deed you could have done? serving in the church, serving the Lord, inviting people to church, loving one another, not loving one another, loving your neighbor, not loving your neighbor, praying for your enemy, not praying for your enemy, or all these things, all these commands that are in the Bible, do this and don't do that. And even in the New Testament, when you pray, when you fast, when you give, we're going to be judged on all that stuff. You're going to be judged on what you done did. I'm going to be judged on what I've done. Good or bad. Whether I should have done it or didn't done it, I'm going to be judged on my effort. I might have did it, but did I do it to the best of my ability? Did I just throw some sermon together 5 minutes? Hey, listen, I know a preacher. I don't know him personally, but I know the church that he was the pastor of, and the people that were there said this pastor, he'd been preaching for a long time, had a filing cabinet in his office full of all his sermons typed up on papers, paper notes, had it like a file, and said he would come in on a Sunday morning, walk to his office, just kind of fumble through that and pull one out and say, this is what I'm preaching today. We're going to be judged according to the effort we put into what God's called us to do. Did we do it as we were doing it unto the Lord, as we're supposed to do all things as we're doing it for the Lord, or we just kind of slap it together? That's the way we do a lot of things, right? We just kind of give God not first, but second or third or the leftovers. God, I got more important things to do today. I could have went to church, but I got more important things to do. Are we going to stand before God and that book's, is that going to be opened on a scroll and be seen before? Yes. We just said we were going to give an account, and we'll all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, and we may receive the things done in the body according to what we've done, good or bad. All right. So we're going to be judged for our deeds. What's the second thing we're going to be judged for? We're going to be judged for our words. We're going to be judged for the things we've done. We're going to be judged for the things we've said. Okay? So look at your neighbor. Say, you will be judged for the stuff you done said. We're going to be judged for the stuff we done did. We're going to be judged for the stuff we done said. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36 and 37. But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give an account for it. When? In the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Well, there we kind of have it again, don't we? Some good, some bad. Some words were good, justified us. Some words were bad, condemned us. I don't know if this is going to be written down or he's going to have an audio file for this one. Can we play the tape? Gabriel, can we play the tape on what she done said? Remember that time when such and such happened? He was driving down the road. Can we play the tape on what he done said? That preacher that stood in the pulpit, can we play the tape on what he said? When you were praying for somebody, what she said. James talked about bridling the mouth, controlling the tongue. He said it's like sometimes you're not supposed to have sweet water and bitter water coming out of the same well. He said, but that's the way it is with our mouth sometimes, writing to Christians. That sometimes we bless God, be justified by that, right? But sometimes we curse mankind who are made in the image of God. You mean to tell me, preacher, God is keeping track of everything? I just said every idle word. Were you not listening? Yes, he's keeping track of every idle word that's been written down in the records, in the scrolls of the book of works for your life. Everything you've said, good or bad. Your blessings and your cursings. your worship and your whining, your praising and your potty mouth. It's all going to be brought up. We got some explaining to do. It's all going to be brought up before Jesus. I'm not talking about what you did before you got saved. I'm talking about after you got saved, after you got born again. The stuff we said, things that were full of faith and things that were full of doubt. The times we questioned God, doubted God, complained to God, yelled at God. The times we said, nobody cares. He's going to say, he's saying every time, I care. What do you mean nobody cares? That's a lie. You're lying right there, saying nobody cares. God says, I care. You going to be judged for that? Yes. Every idle word we're going to be judged for. You're going to be judged for your Sunday roast. You know, when you leave church, you have that roast pastor. When you roast him, boy, I can't believe he said that today. I can't believe he's doing that. He wants to do what? He thinks we should do what to the church? He thinks we should do this or do that. I can't believe that. Idle words. Good or bad. You're going to be judged for those. God's listening. He knows what we say. He hears what we say. We're going to be judged for that. We even get judged for some of that here on the earth. David said, I won't even speak evil of King Saul, who was backslidden, and David had already been anointed to be the next king, ready to take his spot. He says, I won't touch God's anointed. I won't lay a finger on him. God put him in that position. God can get him out of that position. But it didn't scare anybody to go home and talk about the preacher. Listen, I don't want to put any fear on you, but I've seen in my life multiple times people who have spoken out against me, mocked me, or come against me with their mouth. I have seen judgment come upon them in this life. And I'm not talking about something easy and something, I'm talking about hard stuff, bad stuff. Like sometimes their life being ended quickly. You really a man of God? You think you are? They better look out. God's listening. And everything we've said about the pastor or the deacon or the song leader or the musician or just the person sitting next to us or the neighbor or the person in the store, doesn't matter. Every idle word, we're going to give an account for that. So we're going to be judged for our deeds. We're going to be judged for our words. Third, we're going to be judged for all of our secrets. All of our secrets. Look at your neighbor. You know what to say. You're going to be judged for the stuff you done thought nobody knew nothing about. That wasn't too bad. Pretty good. Yeah, you're going to be judged for the stuff you done did. You're going to be judged for the stuff you done said. And you're going to be judged for the stuff you done did you thought nobody knew nothing about. The secrets. See, there's things you did that people knew about. But there's things you've done that nobody knows about. And there's things you've said that people know about. There's people that have said things to me and I've heard it. Or they've been off in a corner and they've talked about me and I heard it. Or they were going and the Lord revealed it to me and I heard it. But then there's stuff that's been said that's secret that nobody knew. Ecclesiastes 12:14 says this. For God will bring every work into judgment. That's what we're talking about right today, judgment. Including every secret thing, whether good or evil. There it is again, right? I mean, good or bad, justified or condemned, good or evil. Isn't that funny? How everything we've said, everything we've done, and everything's secret. just somehow in God's eyes falls into one of two categories. It doesn't like fall into a third category like this one doesn't matter. No, it's either good or it's bad. You're either speaking life or you're speaking death. Either for God or against God. Every secret thing. And Psalm 19, David wrote this Psalm 19, and in verse 14, the last verse of that psalm, he said this, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. What's he saying? God sees everything I say. Well, we know that. But even the meditations of my heart, even what's going on inside in my head, just between my ears, you ever done that? See, we need to learn how to do that, not speak everything we that comes in our brain, right? You know, bridle that tongue a little bit, slow to speak. Don't always just say everything that pops in your head, like, man, you're ugly. You know, you don't say that to somebody and you meet them for the first time. Or even the opposite. Man, you're handsome. That'd be kind of not good to say either, right, ladies? You know, especially with your husband standing beside you. You know, kind of hurt his feelings a little bit. David said about this, though. Even if you bridle that tongue, you stop it before it gets out your mouth, but you're thinking it. Like Jesus said, to look upon a woman and he's already committed adultery in his heart. David said, may the meditations of my heart be pleasing in your sight. God even sees what we're thinking and what we're feeling. Even if we don't express it to anybody else, you say something to me, and inside my blood starts boiling. I'm so mad at what they said about me. They're talking about me. But I've just got a smile on my face while I'm doing it. Oh, yeah, go ahead, yeah. And inside, I'm so angry, you don't even know it because I'm putting on that old facade. But you know who sees it? God sees every secret thing. Every secret thing. Mark 4:22. Let's look at this same thought in the New Testament. Mark 4:22. Jesus says, for there is nothing. Everybody say ain't nothing. For there is nothing hidden which shall not be revealed, nor has anything been kept secret, but that it should come to light. Folks, this day, I mean, we're going to be happy our names are in the book of life. Don't get me wrong. When our name comes up in the Lamb's book of life and we're guaranteed heaven, we're going to be happy. But then when they say, now it's time to be judged according to your works, and they bring out the books, the book of deeds and the book of words and the book of secrets, I'm not going to be looking forward to that. Oh, preacher, you're a preacher. You know, you're in good with God. You guys are like this. You know, you're like a saint, aren't you? I'm a human being. And even if my good outweighs my bad 10,000 to 1, that one, when I stand before Jesus and he brings it up, how embarrassed are we going to be? How ashamed are we going to be? How sad are we going to be? How humiliated are we going to be? Now, I don't know if all the rest of the population of heaven is going to be able to see this judgment, or if it's just one-on-one with Jesus. But you know what? I'm not even going to care what the multitudes are thinking. When I'm standing before Jesus and he says, remember that time you opened your mouth and this here came out of it? You remember the time I asked you to do this and you told me no? Remember the thing you had that you thought was secret and now I'm showing you that I saw it? Maybe the words you spoke you thought was secret, or the thing you did you thought was secret, or just the thought in your heart or in your head you thought was secret, and I'm showing it to you now. Are you not going to be embarrassed? Are you not going to be shamed? I'm not looking forward, even like I said, even if it's 10,000 good to just one bad. 1,000,000 to 10. Those few. I'm not looking forward to having those replayed. Secret things. A lot of people have done a lot of secret things, and they thought they got away with them. Some people whose names are in the book of life, and some people whose names are not in the book of life. As we're all judged according to our works, there's some secret things. And these are the same categories, by the way, that the wicked will be judged by. Determine whether their level of hell, their degree of punishment, the things they've said, the things they've done, and their secrets, same stuff. Things they thought they got away with. I used to have a rowboat on my property. My property goes back and pretty far, and then it comes into a lake where there's a good place to fish. So I have rights to fish on that lake. But it's just really hard to get back there, and there's really no access to it. So a boat was carried back there. Lightweight aluminum boat was put back there, chained to a tree. So we could, if we wanted to go fishing, we could just make that hike through this property. And boy, I tell you, it's a hike, all right. You need a four-wheeler really to get back there. But to get back there, you could take a key, you could unlock your boat, and you get in your boat and you could fish. Several years ago, my son was having a birthday. My oldest son was having a birthday, and I thought, you know what I'll do for him? I'm going to take him fishing on his birthday. We packed up all of our fishing stuff, got the tackle box and the fishing poles and the key with the little floater on it. So if you dropped in the water, you wouldn't lose the key to unlock it. And we walked it through up these hills and down these hills and through weeds and briars and all this. And we got back there to where our boat's supposed to be. Gone. Gone. Somebody had brought some bolt cutters back there. Cut the chain. Hauled off our boat. Must have been fishing out there in a boat and saw there's a boat on the shore. Nobody's around. Nobody's looking. Nobody's here. Nobody can see. They just took it. I don't know what happened to it. I searched around. I drove around. I walked around that whole big 30-acre lake all the way around the shores, different homes. I'd stop. I'd look in people's driveways and their backyards. Wasn't such a thing as air tags back then, where you could just tag it and then track them down. No, it's too long ago for that. Somebody thought they got away with it. Even to this day, I don't know where my boat is. I'd like to have it. I'd like to go back there and fish. To this day, they think they got away with it. And to the day they die, they might think they got away with it. They might be on their deathbed. Remember that day? Tell their buddy, maybe it's two guys. Remember that day we took that boat? We got sold that boat for $50. Gave it to my brother. He used that boat. One day they're going to stand before God. And God's going to say, now bring out the book of secrets. We're done judged according to what he's done, what he said. Now let's do the stuff that nobody knew about. He's going to roll out the things that person's done, and he's going to get down to, you remember the time you stole that boat? What do you mean? Nobody knows I stole that boat. God's going to say, I saw you steal that boat. I saw you take it from that preacher who was going to take his little boy fishing on his birthday and didn't get to do that. Never got to go fishing again on that boat because you took it. You thought it was secret. Listen, we're all going to be judged for everything, including the secrets. Well, why in the world are we being judged? If our name is in the book of life, why are we being judged? We're already going to make it to heaven, right? We're going to be there. Why are we being judged? Well, you remember how the people whose names are not in the book of life are being judged so they can figure out what degree of punishment they're going to receive? Those of us whose names are in the book of life, we're going to be judged by our works to figure out what degree of reward we're going to get. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 14 and 15 says this, speaking about this judgment day, talking about how everything we've done is going to be compared to gold or silver or precious stones or perhaps wood, hay, or stubble. It's going to be one of those two categories, good stuff or bad stuff, stuff that will last, stuff that won't last. And it'll be like put it in a fire. And it says, if anyone's works, right? If anyone's work, which he is built on, endures, he will receive a reward. So if you've done some good stuff, you're going to get a reward. If anyone's work is burned up, if it's negative, it's not good things, he will suffer loss. Now notice, he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. So this is about the believer. They're still going to be saved. They're going to make it to heaven. But we're going to be judged by what we've done, what we've said, and our secrets to determine what kind of reward we're going to get. And if we've done a lot of good for the Lord, we're going to get a bigger reward. And if we've done a lot of bad, we're going to suffer loss. Those rewards are going to be taken away from us. Going to be taken away from us. You say, well, I don't, what is it going to be? I'm not really exactly sure how we're going to be rewarded. As some people get a misinterpretation of, I go to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions. You need to go back and listen to our message, Mansionless Christians, because it's not really talking about houses. It's not really talking about you getting a house or a big house. Some people think, well, he's going to reward us and I'll get a bigger house than you got. And I'll get a nicer house. That's not what it's talking about. I don't even think it's going to be in material type possession. I think it's going to be more in the rewards of the heart. If you've ever remembered as a kid, maybe you had some trophies you got for something, or maybe a ribbon or a certificate, and you put it on a trophy case, or you put it on your wall, or you hung it up somewhere, and it wasn't worth anything really. The ribbon's just 3 or 4 cents worth of something, right? Piece of paper that says certificate, just a sheet of paper, or a little plastic trophy. Not really valuable in itself, but yet every time you looked at that trophy for winning the spelling bee or gymnastics or you won the championship, or that certificate of I did this, I completed this, I got this degree, I got this diploma. Every time you look at it, what's it do? It gives you a memory and a feeling of goodness, right? Yeah, I remember the day I spelled, that word and won that thing. Or I remember the day our team took the championship. I remember the day I hit that home run. I remember that. Yeah, that was cool. It brings back something to you, doesn't it? I think maybe our rewards are going to be something like that. To where those who have done good for the Lord, our reward's going to be, we get to carry that feeling that we did for the Lord. I mean, think about it. If this guy over here is in heaven just because of you, because you invited him to church, or you witnessed him to him, or you loved them, or you helped them, or you maybe just encouraged them, every time you see him in heaven, is that going to be, oh man, I remember you from earth. I remember you from the days of time. And you're going to feel such a good feeling and a warmth. Maybe it's going to be that every time we did something good. Maybe it's just going to be that feeling, or just the approval of Jesus is going to be so greater for those who have rewards versus those who suffer loss and not going to have that, maybe just 1 or 2 trophies in their case to remember of some things that they did for the Lord. But I've talked to some people before, and they say, you know what though, preacher, I'm not really concerned about this second judgment here. You're talking about, you don't even preach to me about it. I'm not really concerned about it, because all I care about is if my name is in the Lamb's Book of Life. I don't really care if I get any rewards or not. Can I tell you a secret about that kind of person who thinks like that? Let me tell you a little secret about them. Their name's probably not in the Book of Life. They're probably just deceived. Because if you have the attitude, I want to go to heaven, but I don't care about Jesus at all on this earth. I don't care about serving him or loving him or anything about him. Are you even saved? Did you even get born again and changed and made brand new? Do you really have the love of God in your life? Probably not. Probably not. Just fooling themselves. You really should want to receive some rewards in it. You really should want to please the one who stretched out his hands and died for you. You really should want to do your best for him. You really should think about that when you're getting ready to do something that you shouldn't do, or say something you shouldn't say, or do something in secret that nobody's going to know about, or think it in your head. You really ought to stop for a second and think, do I really want to do this against Jesus, who's going to bring this up to light? And one day I'm going to have to talk to him about this. One day I'm going to have to talk to him about what I just thought or what I just said. We have to give an account. We're going to be rewarded. Well, eternal judgment. That's the sixth and final basic doctrine. Perpetual decision. Once it's decided, it's decided. There will be no chances. Even if your name's in the book of life, once you get there, there's no chance. You can't go back and say, oh, okay, Lord, let me go back and do some more good for you. No, time's up. Ding, ding, ding. Test is over. Bing, pencils down. We are all appointed to face judgment. But you know, on this earth, when we face judgment, when you're called before the judge, when you're called before the principal, when you're called into the boss's office, you really don't know how any of that's going to turn out sometimes. You might have a good lawyer and you're hoping they're going to rule in your favor. You know, that the judge is going to rule for your case and not against you. But you just don't really know. But that doesn't have to be the case on eternal judgment. You see, how that judgment goes is decided by you. We decide how that judgment goes. The first judgment, whether our name is in the Lamb's Book of Life or not, who decides that? We do. Do we accept Jesus or do we reject Jesus? That makes the decision right there, in or out. And then who gets to decide what's in that book of works? We decide what we choose to do or what we choose not to do. What we choose to say, what we choose not to say. The secrets we choose and the secrets we reject. We're the ones that decide the outcome. Because God is just, He is fair, He's going to be even with everybody. And it's either going to be good or bad. I know that's a lot of pressure on us. But God's given us life. And we should live our lives for Him.